The earliest evidence of woodworking dates back 1.5 million years ago to a Homo erectus in Tanzania that referenced wood clinging to stone axes. Through generation after generation, pre-modern tools were developed to assist people in woodworking and building. One of the components of wood is cellulose, which is its strengthening material. Softwood makes up most of the lumber for building. It has vertical and horizontal fibers with a coarse grain, ideal for building structural frames. Historically, the U.S. was a supplier of wood to Europe. However, nowadays, the U.S. has to look overseas for its wood supplies, in places such as Germany, Sweden, and Austria. The modern wood processing starts with felling the trees in ideally wintertime, when they have less sap. After cutting down the trees, the lumber is taken to a sawmill to be cleaned. At the sawmill, the trunks are cut into boards of different thicknesses to be prepared for drying. The timber is left to dry so that the moisture content can be brought down to about 25 to 30%. However, even lower is preferable. Next, the timber is placed in large kilns where it will be heated to a temperature high enough to drive the moisture out. The thicker the timber, the longer it will take to dry, upwards of a few months. Once dried as best as possible, the timber is packed up. We're going to focus on cross-laminated timber. Taking one panel of untreated softwood, you then glue other boards together for the desired width. After gluing the boards together in one direction, a layer of adhesive is added on top of the boards, forming a mat. Then, an additional mat is adhered to the top, however rotated on 90 degrees so the boards are perpendicular to each other. This layering process is repeated to keep stacking up the layers in increments of 3, 5, 7, or 9, before getting compressed in a vacuum or hydraulic press. CLT gets its strength from the perpendicular orientation of the timber, and it ends with a typically 12% moisture content. Rot and insects. Dry rot destroys softwood timber, and it can be spread to other materials, including brickwork. Wet rot is responsible for about 90% of timber decay in buildings. In addition to rotting fungi, insects can also destroy timber. The furniture beetle, powder post beetle, and death watch beetle all pose a problem for the wood they infest. Deconstruction versus demolition. How we treat the building that we no longer need is critical to the destiny of the lumber. Deconstruction maximizes how much we could salvage in a building. What can be salvaged, we recycle. In contrast, demolition, which is the more common operation in the industry, ends up sending most of the building materials to a landfill. Wood makes up the second largest component of construction and demolition debris and approximately 10% of all landfill material. In 2018, approximately 12.2 million tons of wood ended up in a landfill. This is problematic as with all organic matter, wood produces methane while decomposing, which is even more harmful than CO2 in terms of global warming. Recycling makes it possible to use these materials that would have been discarded into other forms, such as landscaping, fertilizer, energy production, pulp, and paper. But recycling also increases the embodied carbon in lumber product, with extra processing steps that use extra energy that usually includes extra transportation of material or post-processing processes. That is why we are looking to reuse or repurpose the material that we already have in our hands. Reclaimed wood has 12 times less embodied carbon than virgin lumber. That means 12 times less energy and resources to produce lumber. Reusing literally means reusing the salvaged material. For example, in this diagram, the lumber that is used as a column in one building is reused as a column in another building. Repurposing, which could be thought of as the subset category of reuse, is closer to the idea of spolia that we are about to explore this semester. It is claiming material from its existing space and seeing how it could be used in a new function or form. Current market and policy is set to prefer demolition. The cost of demolition is cheaper, and there are few outlets that salvage materials could have on the market. Thinking of how we are going to repurpose the materials that still have its lifespan left, from sourcing to designing, would be a valuable task that we can tackle as designers.